It's day 3 of the project. We should be finishing everything up today. All that's left is wiring up the inside. So the next step will be to remove the front of the transfer switch, get the other end of the Romex cable that we ran through the ceiling, get it wired in here, and then we'll move on to what we need to do with the main service and get the final hookup made. Alright, we have the wire strip. We see here we have 4 wires in this Romex. White, black, red, and a bare wire. Now the white is the neutral, the bare wire is the ground, and then the 2 hot wires are the red and the black. And this is just as simple as hooking it up to the corresponding colors in the transfer switch. White will go to white, black to black, red to red, and then this green wire we will hook the bare ground up to, and that'll finish the circuit wiring from the inlet to the transfer switch. Okay, I've stripped away about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of each of the wires insulation on the Romex. I've knocked out one of the 1/2 inch knockouts on the bottom of the transfer switch, and we'll be using one of these wire clamps to secure the wire up into the transfer switch itself. Make sure we give ourselves plenty of room in here to work with it. We'll slide the screw nut into the top, and we'll just loosely hand tighten this for now. We'll come back in a little while and tighten it up all the way. Alright, that should be good. We've got enough wire here. We'll leave it a little loose here until we get everything wired in. The transfer switch came with all the wire nuts that we need. So we will just start with the white, the neutral. Make sure we check everything, make sure they're nice and tight. Nothing's going to loose or pop out. Okay, everything's wired up, white to white, black to black, red to red, and bare to green, the ground. One other thing to point out here is there's sensors on each of the hot wires, the red and the black. This corresponds to a watt meter on the front of the transfer switch, and we'll take a look at that a little bit more after we get everything hooked up and running. So we can put the cover back on this transfer switch now, and we're ready to move on. Okay, everything's done with the transfer switch now. I've put the cover plate back on it, tightened everything down. We've got the wire clamp tightened in there, and I've gone ahead and tucked the orange cable back out of the way. I've left plenty of slack for the next guy if he needs to get in here and do anything with this. There's a little room to work. Alright, so next step is going to be to take all these wires here, pick a circuit, and wire everything into the service panel. So let's start taking a look at that. Okay, as you see here, I've gone ahead and marked on each of the circuit breakers with a little bit of whiteout the circuits that I want to run, because I won't be able to correspond these up very easily when I take this panel cover off. So everything with the white dot is going to get a circuit rerun to the transfer switch. Alright, well, we're ready to start doing the final wiring of each of the circuits. So what's next is to go ahead and switch off the main power right here to the house, remove the front cover to the service panel, and go ahead and start choosing each of the circuits that we want to run to each of the corresponding circuit breakers in the panel. Once I drop the power here, this work light should remain on. I have it plugged into the generator, and I will be able to test each of the circuits that I'm going to work with and make sure that indeed it is not live as we start to work with this. Alright. Okay, power should be off. Everything checks out okay. So we can go ahead and remove the cover of the service panel. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the power coming in from the street at the top of the panel box is still on. So half of this box is hot, but the bottom half, it's going to be safe to work with. Okay, the next step is going to be hooking up the neutral and the ground wires, the white and the green wires, to the neutral bar, which is back here. That is the one with all the screws where all the white wires are running into, and the ground bar over here, which is where all the bare copper wires are running into over here. Now I've got plenty of openings in each of these, so I'm going to set the phone down, the camera down rather, and I'm going to work with the white wire and the green wire next. Next is going to be wiring in each of the individual circuits that I've marked. Now I've written down each of these circuits on a piece of paper, and I'll make a nice label to put into the service panel when I'm finished. We can go over what I chose, what circuits and why I chose after we're done wiring everything up. So the next step is going to be wiring up this first circuit. It's a 20 amp, 120 volt circuit breaker. In this particular instance, this is my furnace for my gas furnace blower. All right, so let's get started with that. Okay, for each circuit coming from the transfer switch, we have two wires, a red and a black. What we're going to do is remove the wire from the circuit breaker. In this case, A will be my furnace circuit, and we'll pull this black wire out of the circuit breaker. We'll then take the A red wire, we'll strip it, we'll cut it to length, and we'll put the red wire into the circuit breaker. We'll then take the black wire, cut it to length, strip it, and wire nut it to the wire running to the furnace. Let's do that. I want to leave enough slack here so that if it needs to be moved in the future, we can. So I'm going to take off maybe a foot, 15 inches or so. That should give us enough room to run it anywhere on this side of the panel to another circuit if we wanted to. Again, we only need to remove maybe 3/8 of an inch of insulation. This is threaded wire. Just make sure it's nice and clean and there's no frays. Maybe take a little bit more insulation off of this. That's about the same as what the black wire was. We'll go ahead and we'll put this into A. Get our screwdriver. And tighten this down. Alright, that's in there good. Tuck this wire out of the way. We'll find the A black wire here. Again, we'll only cut about 12 inches off of it. Don't need any more than that. We'll strip this guy about 3/8 of an inch. Make sure it's nice and clean. Again, the wire nuts came with the transfer switch. Double check that it's A. It is. And wire nut that connection up. All right. Now we need to repeat that for every connection that we have, and then I'm going to turn the camera off. I'll get everything else wired, and then we'll go over everything close up. One more note I want to make before we go ahead and wire everything up. You notice here that the center circuit actually is bridged together, C and D. They do this so in case you want to hook up a double pole breaker, that would be one of the breakers like you would use for a well pump or an electric range or something like that, something that would draw more than 120 volts. You could bridge these two circuits together and run one of those more high-powered items. In my case, I'm just running 120 volt circuits, so I'm going to remove the center bar so C and D work independent of one another. Okay, I got everything wired up. All the circuits are wired up. So let's go over everything one more time. So coming from the transfer switch, we have a green ground wire that goes to the ground bar back here. That's where all the copper wires, let me see if I can get it focused better. That's where all the copper wires back here are into that bar. We have a white neutral wire that comes in on this side, and it hooks into the neutral bar where all the white neutrals are hooked into. And then each circuit has a red and black wire. We take the red wire, we put it into the circuit breaker, we remove the wire coming into the circuit breaker out. That's the wire that runs out to the appliance. And we pigtail it in with the black wire of the corresponding circuit. Each of these wires is well labeled, A, B, C, and so forth. So everything is hooked back up and we are ready to turn the power back on. As I indicated before, we're going to remove this bar. I'm going to do that next. So each individual circuit runs on its own independently. I have everything in the center position, which is off. So we should be able to put the panel back on the panel box, turn the main power back on, and turn everything on, and then turn this onto the line setting, and then everything should come back on in the house and be running off of utility power. We'll do that next. Okay, we have the panel cover back on the box. We're going to go ahead and turn all of our circuits back on. Everything is in the on position. We'll go ahead and turn back on the main street power, or the main power coming from the street. Okay, so everything's on. Let's go ahead and shut this breaker box. Now everything is on except for those 6 circuits that I've run, because over here on the transfer switch I have not switched these on yet. So now to run these from line power, we pull everything down. And I can feel the air came back on, the furnace is back on now, so that must mean the furnace blower is wired in all right. So everything is back on and running off line power the way we want it to. So the next step is going to be to shut off the generator. I'm going to let it cool down. I got to gas it back up, and then we'll go ahead and simulate a power outage. Okay, we're now going to simulate a power outage. I'm simply going to just throw the main breaker again. Should bring everything in the house off. The light from the camera should still be shining, obviously. My emergency light should come on, and then we'll get the transfer switch turned over to the generator power. Now I do have everything ready to go. It's dark outside, so we'll do another video of how to hook up the generator and go through the steps and the order of things to start everything up. Alright. Okay, everything's down. It's dark in the house. My emergency light did come on. So the next step I would take would be to go ahead and switch everything to the center off position on the transfer switch. Alright, next what we do is bring everything up to the generator position one at a time, giving everything a chance to start. Alright, now we're running on generator power. I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to take you to a couple of the rooms, show you the different things that I have running, and we'll call it a night. Okay, as you see, my computers are up and running on generator power. I'll check to make sure my internet connection has come back on, and I should be able to get everything done that I need to with work. We'll walk out and we should see everything in the garage on. The generator's going to get a little loud here. Alright, the garage is on. Let's make sure the garage fridge is on. Yep, everything's running. The fridge is on. My work light's on. Alright, let's come upstairs. Alright, we should have everything working in the kitchen. Kitchen light comes on, the range, and the microwave, and the fridge. Alright, we've off the generator. We turned back on the main power. I've moved all the switches back to the line position on the transfer switch. So now everything is back to normal. So for the next few videos, what I'll do is go over the generator, the care and maintenance of it. I will also show you how I hook it up to the inlet box outside, and we'll go over the order of starting everything.